Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our March lecture in our Understanding ADHD lecture series. I'm Cheryl Gedzelman from the Northern Virginia and DC chapter of CHAD. Tonight, we are so pleased to have Joan Green present Taking Charge of Your Tech in 2022, an update on how to use your devices to make life with ADHD easier. Our chapter, CHAD of Northern and DC, is one of the many chapters in the CHAD National Organization and aligns with the national mission of improving the lives of those affected with ADHD. We are a volunteer organization of trained professionals who offer support in a number of ways. In addition to offering this free monthly series on the second Tuesday evening of most months, we also have support groups for parents, students, and adults, as well as an annual resource fair during ADHD months in October. While we are volunteers, we cover other expenses through membership dues, donations, and membership. We encourage you to become a member if you are not already. Joan Green is the founder of Innovative Speech Therapy based in the Washington, D.C. area. She offers a uniquely effective approach to help others thrive in life by leveraging the benefits of technology. As a speech-language pathologist, assistive technology specialist, and online tech coach, her mission is to help people of all ages and abilities overcome communication, literacy, and cognitive challenges to maximize success and happiness. Welcome, Joan. Joan, you are muted.
The tech specialist is muted. Okay. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really happy to be here. So should I just start, or do you have any other announcements?
You can go ahead and start. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about taking charge of your tech in 2022, advice to make life with ADHD easier. And before I get started, I just really want to encourage all of you, if you want to, right now everyone is muted and everyone has their video closed. But I do invite you, if you feel like it, you can always turn your video on, and definitely use the chat to interact with each other and share ideas. And I'll be talking about that again in a little bit. I have, let's see here. If anybody would like the handout, Cheryl, I did send that to you, but I will get that for everybody now also. Or what we'll do is, I think later, everyone will have access to the handout, so you don't have to worry too much about taking notes. So again, my name is Joan Green. I'm a speech pathologist, and right now I'm acting primarily as an online tech coach, so I could help everybody everywhere online. I've been doing work with technology for about 30 years before, just when computers were coming out and way before the iPad. And they've really evolved and gotten so much better. And so today I'm going to highlight a lot of the ways that we can leverage the benefits of many different devices. We're going to really focus on this newest generation of tech. We're going to learn today, we're primarily talking about what's possible. And as I go through a lot of these different ideas, what you'll want to do is think about needs, either your needs or the needs of somebody else that you're trying to help. And then, take a few notes just of the names of different products so that you can give them a try and you really adapt them. A lot of times you have to explore them a little bit and change the options to make them work for you. I see that there's some post in chat about people having trouble hearing. My presentation is in slideshow. I'm not sure. I'm just going to keep going. I was able to hear everybody before. Is anybody able to hear me okay? Can you put a note into the chat if you're able to hear? Okay. It should be good. I give so many presentations through Zoom, and I've been using this setup for a long time. Okay, good. So a lot of people can hear. Thank you so much. All right, so let's take a new tech mindset. Very often tech gets a bad rap, and people talk about it in terms of causing distractions and causing developmental delays, and it can cause all kinds of social problems. But what I want you to think in the next hour or so that we're going to be talking together is, how can I take advantage of new features of my devices to help manage my attention, to get more organized and efficient, and to minimize temptations that divert my attention from what I need to do? So that's what I really want you to be thinking about, because I'm going to be talking about a lot of different features and a lot of different products. And so really take to heart what's going to help you or that other person, what features are best, and then you can begin to really think about the exact tools. So when we're talking about our phones and our tablets and our computers, I want you to think in terms of universal design. And so these are the features that are built right into these devices that used to cost a lot. I remember back in the early 90s, when I set up an assistive technology lab over at the corner, well, in Maryland here, in Potomac, and I spent like $500 to get a touch screen, and hundreds of dollars to get software so people could talk and have it type. And hundreds of dollars just for one piece of software to have word prediction. So as you type, it would predict the words and help you with spelling. And now all of those tools and features are included in our phones, tablets, and computers. So I think, if you get a little bit creative, you can really leverage the benefits of these things. And there's a lot of good information online. Once I talk about these different features, it's pretty easy to figure out how to use them. So Apple, Google, and Microsoft are the big three. And I have links here, and you'll be getting a copy of this handout. And there are so many improvements in these accessibility settings that you can just search for them, and there are all kinds of video tutorials. I used to only talk about the phone, the tablet, and the computer, and I think that's what I talked about. I've talked to this group several times. But now I'm also talking about other devices that have really become mainstream. So we have smartwatches. I have my Apple Watch here, and I just find that I use it all the time. I bought my first watch in December, so I held off for a long time because I didn't think I needed it. And I am astounded at how much now it has really made my life easier. Also, smart speakers, Alexa devices, they're fantastic for helping us keep on track. And smart pens. So I'm going to be talking more about these things today. So who here in the chat, you can either, if you have your camera open, you can raise your hand, or you can use one of the symbols down below. Who here has a smartwatch, or you can enter it into the chat. Let me know if you have a smart watch. You can just type yes in chat. Well, a few people do. Let me know, as I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I use my watch for, and I'd love to hear from you all what you use your watch for, because really, when we're talking about ADHD and supporting attention, I think it can really be a game changer. And I did put a link up at the top here that you can click on when you get the handout, and you can there are all kinds of video tutorials about how to use these features of the watch. So when I got it, I didn't even realize I would be using all these things, but I use the map all the time when I'm going to new places or to find out what the traffic's like. And all of a sudden I was driving along and I felt my watch vibrate. And what it does is just a few minutes before you have to turn, it vibrates just to make sure you don't miss the turn. I thought that was fantastic. Also, you can do text messages directly from your phone. So I can get a text message, and if I'm out for a walk or something, I can just use the built-in microphone and speak my reply and send it just from my watch. As long as I have my iPhone near me, it doesn't use, I don't have I only use Wi-Fi on my watch. And so it's really, if you can do something immediately instead of adding it to your to-do list, it helps you be so much more efficient. Also, I use my watch, it syncs with my calendar. And so I always get a vibration 10 minutes before I'm supposed to start with a client. And you can change how these reminders work. Siri is also built in. So I find myself using that all the time. I'll say, hey, and even if I'm walking both my dogs and I can't push the little button here, I can say, hey, Siri, and it'll answer me. And I can just say, when is it going to rain? Or what time is it if I can't even look at my watch? So I have just found the watch to be enormously helpful. I found the Apple Watch distractions. So one of the first things that I do when I'm often helping families with online tech coaching is if I forget to put on Do Not Disturb, as soon as I get something, as soon as I see them get a text message or a notification, I'll say, oh, let's turn on Do Not Disturb on your devices. Well, on the watch, all you have to do is pull down, and if you turn on Do Not Disturb on your watch, it will put Do Not Disturb on all of your Apple devices. So my Mac and my iPad and my iPhone also go on Do Not Disturb. And this Do Not Disturb is a feature that's on all devices now. I also automatically get weather warnings, so I know when it's going to rain or there's bad weather coming. And it really encouraged me to stand up every hour and gives you visual incentives for exercise. And you can monitor your heart rate. So we know that if people with ADHD, it's really important to exercise to help with focus. So this is actually the first presentation when I've talked about my Apple Watch, because I've only had it a couple of months, but I have just found it to be a game changer for my productivity. So I'd be interested to know if anybody else, feel free to share in the chat. We can learn from each other if you have found it helpful, or if you have a different type of watch, how you've liked using it and how it's helped you or somebody that you know. The other newish tool, I've actually been using this a whole lot longer, is Amazon Echo, the different devices. So you can have just these smart speakers here, and they have wonderful quality sound. And you can use those for reminders. So very often I'm getting, those, a lot of people in this group might have ADHD or have a child with ADHD, or you're trying to help someone with ADHD. One of my daughters has ADHD, and I know that it's not a deficit of attention. It's the challenge with shifting attention. Very often you just get totally immersed in what you're doing and you don't feel the passage of time. And so I don't have ADHD, but I get really engrossed in things. And so I often use my Amazon Echo. I have them all over the house. And I set reminders all the time. You can hear me saying, Alexa, remind me in 10 minutes to get on Zoom. Remind me to call Karen tomorrow at 2, and you just get these reminders, and it's extremely helpful. And if you're somebody that benefits from having music in the background, you can say something like, Alexa, play music to help me focus. And it'll just play a bunch of classical music. That's fantastic. Also, you can have an Echo show. So here, pictured on the right here, you can see a screen. So I use this a lot when I'm working with elders and people of different ages and all kinds of different disabilities, people who can't communicate. But for individuals with ADHD, it's helpful often to see the text written out. And so, you can get visual reminders for things also. And I put a link. Oh, and you can say something like, I could say, Alexa, how long will it take me to drive to Ingleside at King Farm, where my parents live? And it will take the current traffic patterns and tell me exactly how long it's going to take. So in terms of planning, it's extremely helpful. And there, I put a link here for quick start guides for all of the different Alexa enabled devices. So I'm curious, is anybody in this group into using these different smart speakers? Anyone care to share? I have a feeling when I do nighttime presentations, it's tough. Everyone's tired. So feel free to share. And if you have ideas, you know, I'm only offering one perspective of things, but I'd be happy to learn from you all too. So think about today, what skills have room for improvement in either your life or in the life of somebody you know? You know, so what I'm going to be doing in the rest of the presentation is talking about different features to promote success. And the areas that I'm going to be talking about are really within my scope of practice as a speech language pathologist. So we'll be talking about reading, writing, taking notes, paying attention, getting things done, staying organized, processing new information, and anything else you want to talk about that I'll see in the chat. So we're going to be talking about those skill areas, and then we're going to explore the features that might be helpful for you. So the first area I'm going to talk about here is reading challenges. How many of you have problems with focusing while you're reading? Or maybe you read something and then you realize that it just didn't sink in. I'm sure that happens to everybody from time to time, especially when the content just isn't that interesting, or you're tired and you're not actively checking your knowledge. So let's talk about some different ways that we can leverage the benefits of the devices you already have to support reading challenges. When I think about tech features, the first thing that I think about for reading is listening to text read aloud and customizing the view. And being able to do this used to cost a lot of money, and it was really expensive software. And now it's just included in the devices that you already use. Every single up-to-date computer and mobile device, so all your phones, your tablets, and your computers can read out loud for free. The process depends on the device, the operating system, and the format of the material. So it can get a little tricky when you have a piece of paper that you want to read aloud for free, and I'll be talking about how you can scan it and upload it and then have it read aloud. Or if there's a book, you know, it just all depends on what it is you want to read. But the easiest way to read things is when they're already online. And so if we're talking about changing the view, decluttering the screen can make a huge difference. And so it automatically takes away all the ads and all the clutter and can make the font size bigger and just clean it all up. And after I talk about some of these things, I'll show them live in action. So built into Safari, Edge, and Firefox, those browsers, where you type in the website, the URL, you'll often notice, not always, because sometimes it's not there, but usually you'll see all these horizontal lines or something similar to that. And that usually means reader view. And so that can be something that's really helpful to do when there are a lot of ads and it's difficult to read. It just cleans up the mess. If you're in Chrome, there isn't an automatic reader view, but there's a free Chrome extension. If you go to the Chrome web store and you download Mercury Reader, it cleans everything up and it's really nice. Probably my very favorite tool for reading is the Read and Write Google Chrome extension by Text Help. And what that does is it allows things to be read aloud. I think to bring this home, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you how this works. And then it's a lot easier to picture. So this is my website, and you'll see here across the top, these are my different extensions, the Google Chrome extensions. And if I want to open up the Read and Write for Google extension, actually, I'll show you Mercury Reader first. It's this one right here. So if I click on this, you'll see it just it just makes it much easier to read. Okay, and then now I'm going to go back to my website, And I'm going to show you the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension. That's this RW, the purple puzzle piece. And if I click on that, I get this toolbar. And anyone can download this toolbar and have 30 days to use this premium version. If you're an educator or a speech pathologist, Text Help has a form that you can fill out and you can get a free version. But what I really like to do when I'm reading out loud is I like to use this hover mode. And if I see this little purple piece on the bottom, this feature of using this is free forever and you don't need the premium version. I'm going to move the cursor over some text and it will just start to read. So I'm not selecting anything.
Innovative speech therapy offers a uniquely effective approach to therapy, empowering individuals, families.
So you can edit the voice. There are options for different voices, different speeds, and you can customize it to the user. But I think for free, it's amazing. And then there are a lot of different screen masking tools, word prediction, I mean, I'm not going to go into all these different things right now, but this is Read and Write for Google, and it's fantastic. I know that in Montgomery County, this is the tool of choice for students who have dyslexia and dysgraphia. ADHD doesn't qualify you for access to Read and Write for Google in Montgomery County public schools. But a lot of people believe that all students should just have access to this as a way to read. It's just a life tool. So does anybody here use any of these tools? Feel free to write in if you have any favorite tools for reading. Another one is the Read Aloud Chrome extension, and that was this little speaker. Okay. I don't like the voice. This is free, but I don't like the voice as much. And then when you're talking about having text read out loud, if you're on an iOS device, an iPad or an iPhone, you can enable the accessibility feature. So you just go to settings and accessibility and spoken content, and you can have text read aloud. On a Mac, you go to the Apple menu, that little apple on the top left, and system preferences and accessibility, and then you can have things read aloud. If you're on a Windows device, there's a built-in tool called Immersive Reader that's amazing. I'm going to show you a 1-minute video.
Use Immersive Reader in Word to improve your reading skills. Select View, Immersive Reader. Choose one of the options. Column width changes line length to improve focus and comprehension. Page color can make text easier to scan with less eye strain. Line focus removes distractions so you can read line by line. Text spacing increases the spacing between words, characters, and lines. Syllables show breaks between syllables to improve word recognition and pronunciation. Read aloud lets you hear your document as each word is highlighted.
The Amazon rainforest is an expansive forest located in the Amazon basin.
So that's just a real quick view, but I do want to highlight that for those of you in the Microsoft world, there are incredible accessibility features now built into all of the Microsoft apps, and you can use Microsoft Word even if you have a Mac or a Chromebook. You can get the Google Chrome extensions for things. So, I know that there's, you're here, many of the students in the schools are using Google, but often many parents or adults are using Microsoft tools. And so a lot of people don't. I'm going to have an entire webinar about Microsoft tools coming up.
Use Immersive.
Sorry. All right, let me move ahead. So again, it reads text aloud with highlighting. It helps with focus and attention. And to access it, when you're in one of the Microsoft apps, you go to the view menu to find it. And when you get this down, the copy of this handout, you can click here and there's an interactive tutorial that's very cool that helps teach you how to use it. I did see a question here for reading comprehension issues, what tool would be better? So in terms of reading comprehension, those are different. You want to be checking for understanding. And I didn't really include tools that embed questions for understanding. Here I just included tools that would read aloud to you. That read and write for Google would be my first choice, and it does have a feature there that simplifies the text. So it can shorten it and simplify it. I don't know how well that works. I haven't really worked with that. If anybody has suggestions for Patricia about how to help with reading comprehension. So you can hear things said aloud, and it's always best to watch with your eyes also. And then I would say pause it every now and then and try to make sure that you're actively listening, maybe taking notes on it, checking for understanding. That's a big question. I think that's more in the strategy than the tech tool myself, but I'd love to hear from you all if you have additional suggestions for reading comprehension. And then here I have digital books. So a lot of times students are asked to read a paper book, and a lot of times it's better for them, not always, to read a digital book, especially if they want to be able to listen to it read out loud. And I included some of my favorite sites here. A lot of people with ADHD also have other challenges. It often isn't alone. And so if you have a student who's older, but you want age appropriate books to read that are at a lower level, sometimes you can look at Tar Heel Reader, or getepic.com is fantastic. Bookshare requires a documented print disability, and I think it's really underutilized. If somebody has dyslexia or a visual impairment, they can get access to so many books and listen to them as they're highlighted. The Kindle can also read books aloud. And if I had to pick, a lot of people always ask, what's your favorite iPad app for reading aloud Bookshare books? I always say Voice Dream Reader. And if we had more time, I could show you all these things, but the Voice Dream Reader app is fantastic for reading PDFs aloud and different kinds of digital books aloud, including books from Bookshare, because you can really fine tune the audio and the visual. And if some students don't just, I keep saying students, but really it's adults too, don't like to listen to computerized voices and really prefer human narration. And if that's the case, learningally.org is fantastic. It's human narration, but you do need a documented print disability. The Libby app is wonderful. That's a resource for getting free audiobooks or digital books from the library. It's connected with the library. And Audible is by Amazon, and that's what most of us would think of when we're thinking of audiobooks. I see a question here. Are these free apps? Libby is free. Learning Ally, I think, costs about $100 a year. Tar Heel Reader is free. Getepic.com is free for educators. I think there is a fee for families. Bookshare is free. Kindle is a free app, but you have to buy the Kindle books. And Voice Dream Reader, I think it's about maybe $20. I'm not sure. I used to include links and pricing, and it's just too much to keep up with. And you can just look them up. Okay, and then the last part about reading here is if really in the schools, students should be, if they have significant reading problems, they should be given digital versions of everything. And I think that we have been moving in that direction due to all this virtual learning, but very often they're not. And adults often need to put things into the digital world when it's given to them as a paper so that they can keep it organized digitally and have things read aloud and maybe annotate digitally. My two favorite apps for that are the Microsoft Lens app, which I think might be free. I can't remember. And the Voice Dream Scanner app, which might be about $10. So these are fantastic apps for you essentially scan paper and then it turns them into editable text that can be read out loud. Here, if you go to my website, innovativespeech.com, I have a free download that talks about ways to make reading easier. Okay, so that's reading. Now let's talk a little bit about writing. So think about yourself or about somebody that you're here to look for resources for. And think about what's hard about writing. Is it hard for somebody to get their thoughts down on paper? Is it a physical problem with writing with a pen or a pencil on paper? Is it typing that's hard? I mean, there are a whole bunch of challenges with typing and writing, but I just want to share with you some features that are readily available with technology that might be able to be helpful. So we're going to talk a little bit about speech to text, speech to audio, word prediction, and outlining tools. So these are when someone says they're having a writing problem and they want to know what kind of technologies are available that might help. These are what come to my mind. And feel free to share what you found. I see a question here. Can those scan handwriting into text? I don't think those can. I haven't done that too much. It's hard to scan handwriting into text. There are some tools, which I'll talk about later, like the LiveScribe pen, the Remarkable tablet. Some of those you can write with a special pen in a way that you can then convert it into text. I don't think any of the apps that I showed can do that. If anyone else has used any apps that can scan handwriting into text, would be great if you can share. Okay. So when we're talking about your computers, your tablets, your phone, the smartwatches these days, all current devices can turn your speech into text. And so when I'm working with families who come to me, I see a lot of kids in middle school, high school, college, and parents who want to just become more tech savvy. And so I really think that all students should be able to know how to navigate the devices they use to do these things, because there may be times when they'd rather speak than type or handwrite. You know, it's just part of culture these days to be cognizant of these different choices. And I find that when I work with kids with special needs and I teach them this, it really empowers them to be the cool one and to know how to do all this stuff that a lot of other people don't know how to do. And it's not just because they have a disability. I mean, they're just being cool and getting more out of their devices. So it's really become very socially acceptable. So if you have, you know, I put here how to turn your device into a dictation tool. So if you're on a PC, there's a Windows, you just touch the Windows logo plus an H, and you'll see the microphone pop up. If you're on a Mac, you touch the function key twice and the microphone pops up. You might have to enable it first in the accessibility settings, but that's how it works. This is very, very popular. If you're in Google, the voice typing tool is just already included. So I want to show you this because this is just a basic, I guess I'm often surprised how many people don't know. Here, I'll just go. I'm just going to go to my drive and go to new and go to Google Docs. And so I'm not adding any new extension or anything. It's just included in Google Docs. So let me close my Read and Write for Google. If you go to Tools and then go down to voice typing, everything that I say is automatically typed, period. It's amazingly accurate for an individual who has clear speech, period. However, if there is an accent that is difficult for the computer to understand, it doesn't work as well, period. So used to be that you had to spend a fortune to get dictation software, and now it's just there. But it's not an automatic solution to writing essays. You really have to learn to use it. I'm going to be talking later about outline tools, and in Google, it's just included right here. So here you can have your title, a subtitle, a heading, and then everything shows up over here on the left with live links. So if you have a long report and you have several different headings, you can click on the headings here on the left and it takes you to where you need to be in the report. So that's also really helpful. Okay. Carolyn says photos and iPhone can convert your handwriting to text. Huh, I never knew that. Thank you. I'm going to have to try that out. You select over the handwriting, but the accuracy depends on the quality of the handwriting. Yeah, it always depends on the quality of the handwriting. So somebody with handwriting that's hard to read, it will never convert into text very well. Thank you for that. Okay. And then, there are a bunch of accessibility features in Chromebooks and word prediction and other ones. You find them by going to the clock. In the bottom right, there's the time. You click on that, and that's how you get to all the different accessibility features. So other things to think about to help with writing. You can use the text-to-speech that we talked about before for proofreading. So after somebody has a bunch of text written out, have it read out loud to you to see if it's really saying what you want it to say. You can use those outlining tools that I briefly showed you. Those are also in Microsoft Word. Grammarly is a great Google Chrome extension or an app that you can use to help with grammar. And I showed you Read and Write by Text Help. And then a lot of times kids with ADHD or adults really do better. Some do better when they're allowed to let their creativity shine and to show their knowledge in other ways. So maybe they can use a mind map, a multimedia mind map, or maybe they can produce a book, and create video and show knowledge that way. So I'm always trying, I think a lot of people with ADHD are really creative and bright. Not everybody, but a lot. And so if we can help people use their talents and strengths to show their passion using tools that are more creative, sometimes that's a really good solution. And one of my favorite tools for that is bookcreator.com. So I encourage you to check that out if you're not familiar with it. All right, so that was writing, but more in terms of showing what you know or when writing an essay or a paragraph or something. But then there's a whole world of taking notes, and that is so difficult for people with ADHD. It's hard for everybody, but to pay attention and process information and take notes on the information is really very difficult. I'm sure a lot of you out there are shaking your heads. I just think that it's hard for everybody. And so there are a lot of new tech features. I'll just have time to touch on some of these, but I have done entire presentations on just pens, digital pens, and note-taking apps. But the features to think about are the ability to record audio, the ability to store notes in the cloud or online, and the ability to sync audio to text and images. So when we're trying to figure out what's best for taking notes, you want to think about what is the function of taking notes. So a lot of people have different reasons for taking notes. We might be trying to record information to refer to or study from later. We might be taking notes just to help it sink in. I often do that. I feel like I focus better when I take notes. We might be just taking notes to remember to do specific tasks or to meet deadlines. Or maybe we take notes to share information with others. So we need to think about why we're taking the notes, to think about what the best way is to take notes. And, the way we take notes at work is different from why we need to take notes in classroom, or for our own personal information. Maybe we just want to capture an idea when we're out taking a walk. So there are just lots of different reasons for taking notes. And I'm going to show you a few of my favorite tools for some of these scenarios. So a feature that I think is really great is synchronizing notes and audio. So just recording an hour lecture, the audio of it isn't great because you don't want to spend another hour listening to it again, because we're all busy. We don't have time to do that. The whole key is to take notes in a way so that we can go back and just look at the most important bits of information. So we need some kind of system to rely on to know where to listen to again or to add to our notes. And first of all, we do need permission to record. I mean, that's usually the law. I know in Maryland, you need permission to record, and that can be a sticking point, because it may be that you want to record and use some of these tools, but you're not allowed to. That's another whole discussion. And then I've worked a lot with people. Some people would rather write by hand, and so maybe they want to use a smart pen. Some people prefer to type. Some people want to get an automatic transcription of everything that's said, just to document a meeting. And some people may not want to write anything and just pay attention and just make an occasional check mark or something. Or somebody has cerebral palsy and can't write. So here are a couple of ideas. I think the next slide actually lists them, but if you want to actually use a smart pen, I mean, this is a symphony. There are a whole bunch of them out now, and they have different purposes. If you use a smart pen, often you're using special paper or you're working on a special tablet. Typically, the notes are stored online, and then you can sync the audio with whatever you draw or write. There's also a pen where you can highlight text and send those in a book. You highlight something and it sends it into a document, which is really cool. There are pens that you might want to download a PDF and write on top of the PDF. And there are pens that can convert handwriting into text. So these are my favorite pens. The LiveScribe pen, a lot of them you can't even get anymore. They used to be the most popular ones. The Symphony pen is a LiveScribe pen that's pretty good, but you have to use your phone as the recorder. And I really like the Echo pen because the recorder is in the pen, and so it's one less device that you have to use. The Echo 2, I'm still waiting for mine. I purchased it a couple months ago and it's been on back order. You have not been able to buy it for a couple of years, but the Echo 2 is about to come out. So if anyone's really looking for a pen, something to write by hand on special paper and record the audio and then touch the paper to hear what was said, I think the Echo 2 is a really good choice, but hopefully it's going to come back in stock anytime now. I was talking to the developer and she really thinks in the next few weeks it'll be back in stock. I like the Symphony a lot. You don't have to record to use it. You can just write on the special paper and then save it digitally. And you can use your phone. So if you don't mind using your phone as the recorder, it's good, as long as you have enough battery and everything. The NeoPen and Rico recorder, I should have gotten them out. I have all these. The Rico recorder is real little. That's a really nice solution because you don't have to use your phone. You just put your Rico recorder on your desk or near the speaker, and that records it. And then you use the pen to write on special paper. So a lot of people like the NeoPen and Rico recorder combination. The Scan Marker Air, all these things cost probably somewhere between $150 and $200, I think. I'm not great with prices. The Scan Marker Air is one of my favorites. That's the one where you highlight pages from a book, sentences from a book, and that text gets read aloud and automatically entered into Microsoft Word or Google Doc. The Remarkable 2 tablet is a very thin tablet that makes you feel like you're writing on paper, but it's just like one page. It's expensive though. It's about $600, I think. I think it's overpriced for what it does. The Rocketbook is not expensive, maybe $35 or $40, I think. And that's a reusable sort of spiral bound paper, but the paper feels a little plasticky, but it's really cool. So you write notes, and then at the bottom, there are these little symbols that you X out, and then you use your phone to scan the paper, and it sends a digital version to wherever you want it to go. So that doesn't record audio, and neither does the Remarkable 2 tablet. These are just digital recordings of what you write, not audio. And the Apple Pencil is something that works with iPads, so that you can get an app like Notability, or there are a whole slew of them now that you can download a PDF file and write on top of it to take notes. So that was a pretty quick review of some of these pens. But the problem with pens is usually you have to keep them charged up and they're easy to lose, but they can be a great solution. Microsoft OneNote is a wonderful tool for taking notes. You can use it on a touch tablet with a pen, or you can use type on it with your computer, and it's all saved in the cloud. You can annotate on PDFs, you can record audio, and it's free. So Microsoft OneNote is something that I use a lot. And then I just want to quickly mention a couple other tools. Otterai is fantastic for anyone that would like a full transcription of what was said during different meetings. And you can edit it along the way in real time, and you can highlight things, and you can add images. So for college students especially, that's anyone with a hearing impairment or auditory processing problems or ADHD, where you might tune things out, that can be really good. Oh, that reminds me, I have a slide coming up, but when I present my own webinars, I always talk about captioning at the beginning. If any of you haven't noticed and would like captions, now it is available. If you look at the bottom of the Zoom screen, you'll see that it says, I'm not seeing it right now. So, live transcript or closed captioning. I disabled it because I didn't want to see the transcript as I spoke, but you can choose to see the words that I say or not see them. And you can see one line at a time or see the whole transcript across on the right. So that is a feature now that Zoom includes for free. You just have to enable it before the meeting starts. So that was a little side note. Now back to Glean is another terrific tool. I would say this is probably my tool of choice for students in college, for adults, and maybe some kids in high school. Basically what this is if you're watching a pre-recorded video or participating in a Zoom class or any live distance class, what you can do is you can download the handouts ahead of time or different images, and it will, you can see along the picture here, it just gives you sort of a line where the audio is. And so you don't get distracted seeing all the text, you're paying attention. And when something important is said, you can just tap on one of these symbols down here, an H for creating a new heading, an I for really important information that's going to be on the test. And it just gives you a way to take minimal notes so that you're interacting with things and paying attention. And then later on, you can go back and listen again where you gave yourself some visual cues that it was important, and you can further type into your notes, and then those can be printed out. One thing that's really nice about this is that the actual audio recording is securely saved online and cannot be downloaded and shared. So I think professors and educators are less reluctant to use it because they feel that the audio recording can't be abused. Like you can't post it on social media, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem as, it seems like it's only going to be used by the person that has asked permission to use it. So it's a little bit more secure. There are educator versions of this also that will provide a transcription, which is a new feature that they just added. So this is a really good product. It does cost, there is a subscription And there are a number of colleges now that are providing this as a tool for students to use who need it. Okay, feeling overwhelmed? I think this is the last topic here. Let's talk a little bit about how we can leverage the benefits of tech to help students and adults who are feeling like there's just too much they have to do and they just can't keep up. They can't find things when they need them. They're just not organized. So just a bunch of tech features to support focus and productivity. Just checking to see if there are any questions. Okay, thanks for all the great ideas that you guys are putting into the chat. Okay, so let's talk about, I did mention this at the beginning, the do not disturb feature on all different devices and how to manage notifications. So on all of your devices, you can go into your settings and decide which notifications to let through and which ones not to. And if you don't know how to do that, you can just go onto Google, because in 1 hour, I just can't show you everything. You can just say, iPhone 7, how do I manage my notifications? And you'll see all kinds of video tutorials on YouTube. But now what's really cool on iOS devices is if you click do not disturb, it lets you set up different profiles to use for work or for home. You can customize them. So maybe you do want to let certain people call you during work, maybe your colleagues or something, and you don't want to block them out, but when you're in session, you don't want other people to be able to call you. Or vice versa. Maybe when you're home, you want to put on a do not disturb, like a focus for your family, and just let family members call you and not be disturbed by work. But the whole point of this slide is that you should always think like, is this how I'm choosing to prioritize my attention, rather than letting all these extraneous distractions grab your attention. You can be in better control of all of your digital devices by choosing how to use them and what to react to. So different alarms and things. I think probably most of you know about guided access. It's been around since iOS 6. It's been around for quite a few years, but if you don't, I do want to mention it, and it has a few new features. If you go to on any iOS device settings and accessibility, you'll see guided access. And what you do is this is a way to keep somebody locked into an app. So maybe somebody has to be practicing a math app, or maybe it's somebody who has ADHD that keeps getting out of an app and they don't know why it keeps happening, but they keep just getting out of it and they're just so frustrated with the tech. What you can do is lock them into it. You just put in a passcode that you set up, make sure to keep track of it. And you can set it so that it keeps you in for a certain number of minutes, or just until somebody puts in that password again to get the user out of it. I don't usually think of using guided access until I really need it. Maybe I'm working with somebody that has some behavior challenges and they just keep getting out of the app and sneaking out of it. And then I remember, oh, let's just use guided access. And then it's just for that dedicated app for a while. Okay. Microsoft has a focus assist built into it now. And so that also stops notifications from popping up on your screen, and you can set up the length of time that you want to focus and how long you might want to take breaks for. And you can decide which notifications get through and which ones are blocked. So if you're in the Windows world, that's what you would use. And then I think it's really helpful. I think someone had put a comment before with regard to the watch, but just looking at all your different devices and thinking all of them have clocks and all of them have alarms, stopwatches, and timers. And so I think it's just very helpful for people where time just might be passing by without them noticing, to use timers and say after 20 minutes, you'll stop working on this, or you need to take a break. And if we know that we only have a certain amount of time to work on something and we're blocking all the distractions, that really will free up more time to do what makes us happy and what we enjoy. We can just be so much more efficient. Okay. I'm just checking for questions. Okay. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, the different smart assistants, the Alexa and Echo devices, they're fantastic for keeping us on track. So if we're blocking a lot of notifications and we'd rather, we're taking a break and we don't want to be at our computers or by our tech, and we want to be, doing things around the house or playing outside or something, it's nice to have another device that we can have bring us back to work. Or Echo, set the study timer for 45 minutes. You can name different timers. And so often, like when I'm cooking for a large party way pre-COVID, I would have 5 different timers going, this for the turkey and that for the stuffing. And, it can just keep track of multiple timers. To help with organization, the first thing I often talk about is using a calendar. And I'll say, how do you keep track of everything? And a lot of people might say, I just keep track of things in my head, and a lot of students that I work with that have a lot of executive functioning challenges, and some have ADHD. And everybody has different kinds of challenges, but I think everybody should use a calendar. My preference is Google Calendar because it's probably the most mainstream and it plays the nicest with all the other calendars. You can be used, you can share events. And I really like to, on the left, on the calendars, there's a create button. And so you can create an event, a task, and you can give things a color. And if you're in the Google world, it all interacts nicely. So here I have an image of a calendar, and then there's a little column here on the right where it also shows tasks and Google Keep. You can have some of the other Google products along the right. And so you can, they just work so nicely together. And then I have on the right here, I often go through with students or adults how to get more out of their calendar. If you're going somewhere, you can put a list of questions for a doctor, or things you have to bring when you go backpacking, or, here I have add Otter meeting notes. I sometimes use Otter to record meetings. And so if this was a Zoom session and I wanted to use Otter, it automatically will transcribe everything. I mentioned Google Keep a little bit. This is probably my favorite basic to-do list that you can color code. You can set reminders. You can share with other people, give it a color, give it check boxes. It's fantastic and it's simple. I think it's important to stick with simple. If you all have any thoughts about Google Calendar or Google Keep, or I know there are a lot of other tools like Trello. There are just so many different things out there. I think we want to just think about using something. And then once you pick a tool, really watching a video tutorial about it and using it as well as it can be used. So really digging into all the different options and customizing it so it works best for you. Another, when a lot of people get overwhelmed and they're always losing things and disorganized, I think that if we keep folders online with documents in the folders, and you can search for it and it's available for you from any device, it makes life so much easier, because it's like you always have your file cabinet with you when you need it, and it just helps us be more efficient. So I often ask to see somebody's Google Drive or OneDrive and try to figure out how they organize themselves, and if they take notes, where they put them, and can they find them when they need them? Are they searchable by title? So let's see if, okay, no questions. And then email, how to use, I have a question here from Rita. What about a CUF file? I don't even know what that is. Rita, can you explain what a CUF file is? I'll get back to that, but I think email is an important task to really get down, because if someone's checking their email 50 times a day, that's not efficient use of time, and it can be very overwhelming. So it's often good to have maybe twice a day, depends on your lifestyle and what you're up to, but making sure to check it at least once a day. A lot of students just don't check email very much. And then if a lot of people use Gmail, you can pause the inbox if you don't want distractions while you're trying to focus. Or another great feature, this is just included now, you right click or 2-finger tap to access these things. You can snooze emails and have them come back when you want to deal with them. So if someone's asking you a question, but you're really busy and you want to get back to them the next day, just snooze it for a day. Okay, Annie, come up file. I just don't even know what that is. How to track the steps in a project. Okay, so you're talking sort of project management. So I often, if it's a simple project, I'll here, let's go to Google Keep. So if it's a big project, so let's say you know, and then I'll do check boxes. And then I'll say, what do you have to do first? You know, first, second, and we can have deadlines. And then if I'm in the calendar, if I open my calendar app, it'll show up right beside it and you can give due dates and deadlines. Let's see, where am I? Let's see. You know, here's the project. And there are ways that this can all work together. I mean, if you're really looking for a big project, I like Asana is another one. There are better project apps. Asana is a great one that I use to really manage my business and to have big projects and deadlines, and it comes up. I tend to stick with Google Keep just to keep things really simple. And then you just list out all the different steps and you check them off as you do them. That's just simplistic. And then if people really want more, you can, it can be pretty powerful though, because you can have labels. And some people, like I have probably 50 Google Keep notes. And then if I was working on a project or something, I could have different notes and use the label to extract all of those notes with that label, which is the name of the project, and see them next to each other. It can be very robust. So I like to start simple and then add complexity as we go, I guess. Okay. So it's 8:37. I think we have till 9 o'clock, and I was hoping to end by 8:45 for questions. So I think I'm almost done. So here's Google Drive. I spoke about that, email. Here are a couple other apps and extensions to explore. In past presentations, I've talked a lot about these. Stay Focused, the Marinara Pomodoro app. If you're on a Mac, there's a timeout. And if you're on an Android, Clear Lock, there are just all kinds of apps now where you basically put in, you enter in what you find distracting. You know, if you find yourself wasting a lot of time on Facebook or different social media or certain games, it helps you help yourself reduce temptation. And so a lot of these, they block the things that you don't want access to, or you can give yourself a certain amount of time to do those things. You can also do this in iOS, just within some of the features in the settings. Or, you know, some of these can tell you when to take a break. It all depends on how much you want an app to help you with this, or you want to do it on your own. There aren't any there are workarounds for everything, but for some people, these really can make a big difference. If any of you have found any of these particular types of apps helpful, you know, feel free to write them in. I do feel pretty strongly about some of these screen hacks to help with overwhelm. I think that screenshots and split screens can make all the difference. When you're involved, especially in virtual learning, or you're in a business where you're doing a lot with a screen. And I think everybody should know how to capture a screenshot on all their devices. Even a watch, you can do it now. So, with your phone, if you want to take a quick picture of what's on the screen, or if you're on a Mac or a PC or a tablet, I have a free digital download that goes through all the different devices and exactly how to do it. Or you can just look it up online. But I think that capturing a screenshot really can help with organization and memory. But then you have to put them in a folder, put them someplace where it's going to be helpful to you. So I get permission, and if I'm having a group meeting about a particular client, sometimes I'll have a screenshot, because if I can see everybody who was in the meeting, it really helps me remember what took place in the meeting. Or it's like taking a picture of the board instead of writing out all the assignments. This is just the tech version of that. And then the other thing is having a second monitor really makes a huge difference. So I don't know, for those of you who might follow my work or be in my Facebook group, I posted about a picture of my setup recently. I have 2 monitors, and I have a Mac laptop that's boosted up high, so I'm positioned well. And then I have a big monitor, and I often have multiple windows open, and it just makes it so much easier to work. And sometimes on one screen, I'll have multiple windows. And so I have a free digital download about how to do that. Nietzsche said that she purchased a second monitor. Makes all the difference. It really does. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. And for people with ADHD, a lot of times you might just not process what you hear. You might not be paying attention or be distracted. And so I think captions really help. And that's why at the beginning, I really wanted you all to be able to have captions if you wanted them. Some people find them distracting, and other people find them really helpful. So if you ever go on Google Meet, which I know a lot of the schools use, captions are automatically included for everybody who wants them. You just click on turn on captions. And then you can decide if you want a background or something. But a lot of people find captions helpful. And in Google Meet, it's just an accessibility feature that's already there. The host doesn't have to do anything. There is a Google Chrome extension called Google Meet Transcripts, where if you're in a Google Meet and you would like an entire transcript of all that was captioned, you can download that extension, and then it just automatically opens up a Google Doc after the meeting and shows you everything everybody said. And so for a limited use, it's free, and then there is a subscription available. And I already mentioned with Zoom, there is automatic closed captioning now. When it's automatic, there are always lots of errors. It's always best to have somebody typing things out, but that's not always possible, and it can get very expensive. So I think this live captioning is fantastic that it's now included in so many of these platforms. Many people don't realize that if you use the Chrome browser, you can just go into the settings and you can enable live caption on desktop. And then anytime you watch a YouTube video or any movie or anything in Chrome, you'll see this black box that shows up with captioning, and you can decide whether or not you want to see it. But so I know that there are a lot of people hosting summits, and they don't know what to do about all the captioning that's really required. And so some of them are just saying, well, watch all the presentations using Chrome and enable it in your browser, and you can have instant captioning. So that's nice to know. So that's the end. Oh, wow, 8:44. That was pretty good. I just want to share with you a few things that I offer, and then we'll open this up to questions. I've written 4 books. The first book is no longer published, and the second book, I have 3 editions. So this is the most recent book I wrote called Assistive Technology in Special Education, and it's available online in lots of places. I encourage everyone who is interested to join the IST Tech Savvy Solutions Facebook group. You just have to answer a few questions. I just do that to keep out spammers. I think I have 800 more people in it, and it's just there for all of us to communicate with each other, ask questions of each other, and connect. I also offer free 15-minute phone calls with anybody, any family member, any colleague who's interested, to help you figure out your next steps in tech. And so you can just go to my website, innovativespeech.com, and click on Let's Chat. And I call you. And if you're out of the United States, we do an audio Zoom. It's not a video, it's just audio, because sometimes I'm in the car, I'm all over. Basically what happens is any free moment, any free 15 minutes on my calendar can be reserved. So I do a few of those a day, and it keeps me on my toes, and I try to help people out. And I think a lot of people have found that helpful. That's also how I take in new clients. I always start with a free 15-minute call. And on my website, I also list a bunch of events and webinars. And these are, every month I have a free webinar. Tomorrow I have one all about helping people with complex communication needs. So, and I have one coming up on hearing loss, elder tech. You know, my favorite tech for working with elderly folks is in June. I'm focusing on Microsoft apps and accessibility in July. And then in August, back to school, high school and college. And in September, back to school, K through 12. And then I didn't put in a slide, but after each webinar, I have a spotlight session that goes into each of the topics in greater depth, and I bring on some experts, and I charge for those. That's a smaller group Zoom meeting format, whereas the webinars are a webinar format like this. Actually, this is a meeting. So, and here's all my contact information. So I'd love to, if any of you have any questions, would like to hear about a topic that I didn't bring up. There's so much tech out there. Or if you want to share some of your favorite tools, that'd be great. Okay, Emmanuel asks, how to help a 9-year-old boy who loves to read aloud with pictures. He's not interested in books unless with pictures or music. I mean, I guess, any of you are welcome to help me out here. I try something like Epic, that digital books. I guess the key will be with the description of somebody, find a topic that he really loves and is eager to explore more, maybe reading with him. If you're trying to get him to read without pictures, I mean, I think it's great that the 9-year-old boy loves to read aloud with pictures. It sounds like you're trying to get him to read without the pictures. You just have to scaffold the task and provide a topic that he's interested in, or maybe together, you know, an activity together that's a lot of fun, reading something. I don't have, I would try Epic. I mean, that has pictures too. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I would have to learn more about this. It sounds like you need to scaffold in supports without the pictures. But 9 is pretty young. So call me if you want to talk about that. I can't think of any brilliant thing to tell you right now. It's sort of late for me. My brain isn't all there, I think. If anyone else has any other ideas. Kelly asks if there'll be a copy of the slideshow. I'll share the link. In fact, I can do that right now. I put it right here. Copy link. Okay, I'm going to put this in chat. That is a link to a folder with the handouts, with 1 slide per page or 6 slides per page that everyone's welcome to have. Suzanne says, I find the biggest issue with my college-age daughter is actually getting her motivated to use the amazing tools that are available. It's hard, and I don't know. I mean, I had this challenge with one of my daughters, and I had to go sort of behind her back and have somebody else recommend things that I wanted her to be using. But I think that there's often resistance when students feel that they're different, or maybe they have to use something because of some kind of deficit or disability. And the more that we can normalize that these are tools and strategies that are good for everybody and that they're cool to use and they just make life easier, sometimes that helps. The approach that I take in my one-on-one coaching sessions online is they're the boss. They get to choose what they use and don't use. I just want them to be open to learning about it. And often if they try a different way of using things, sometimes students will just try something once and then dismiss it. And sometimes it takes a little bit of tweaking to be able to come up with some solutions that are more readily accepted by the student. And I'll often have a particular task and have them do something and then show them features that can help and have them do the same task with the different features and ask them what they think about it, if something feels easier, or if they're better able to show what they know or better able to understand the written material. Patricia says, my son is using his iPad for a series of tasks, including taking notes, etc. His amazing ADHD coach introduced the technology for him. I didn't. So maybe your daughter's more open for a professional to recommend something instead of parents. Yeah, sometimes it takes somebody else to suggest it. And I know that somebody had asked me earlier today about what I offer. Just so you all know, I provide a brainstorming session. So what I do is I don't do evaluations, but what I do is after the 15-minute call, we'll set up a time, and then anybody can send me any reports and I'll review everything. And really it's a brainstorming session on Zoom, often parents and kids together. And I just, depending on what the needs are of the student, we just go through a lot of really cool tech, and I'll try to empower the student to make the decisions, but encourage them to try different things. And the cost for that is $300 for the hour and a half. When it's all done, I send an email with suggestions for next steps and links to video tutorials. And then after that, people can have as many or as few sessions as they want, 30, 60, or 90-minute sessions. So it's, some people, want, I'd say typically I do 2 to 4 sessions per family, just to infuse the technology into whatever supports they already have. And then sometimes people come back to me a few months later for 1 or 2 sessions to move to the next step. So it works out really nicely. It's very family friendly. I think we all need to do what we can do to keep the stress low. I know that I've been through a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you have been through a lot too. So that's why I don't commit to more than a week or 2 in advance. And we just take one step at a time. Does anybody else have any questions?
Hello again, everybody. I'm Cheryl Gedzelman again from CHAD of Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. I want to thank Joan Green for a wonderful presentation. It's way too much for me to absorb, but you will get handouts later through Eventbrite or through Pam, the president. that will have a summary of some of the things that Joan has talked about. And we really appreciate it, Joan, and we'll have you back in another year or two with the newest technology again. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Have a great night.
My pleasure. Take care, everybody. And thanks for having me.